Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Flagrant Talk Sports Podcast. It's me, Isaiah, back with another video. I believe this is our fourth of the week. There's been so much going on, and I've loved talking hoops. In this video, we've got NBA trade deadline winners, losers, and then I got a little middle tier. This is the tier where maybe I like a move for one team, but they did another move that I don't love. It's kind of that place where I can talk about the things I really don't like and do like because as we all know, trades are not black and white. If this is your first time tuning into a video, welcome. Please like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. If you've tuned in previously, thank you for all the love. Since Mo and I have come back, we've gotten a ton of it, and we've got a lot of upcoming amazing content on the way. But let's get into it right away. The first big winner. Let's rip the Band-Aid off. The first big winner and the first big loser are the Los Angeles Lakers, are the biggest winner of this entire trade deadline. They're the biggest winner of any trade ever. I'm going to keep it short and sweet. I have an hour-long podcast episode with Moses on the channel where we break down the entirety of the Luka deal. So if you want to hear me talk about that, that's already up on the channel. So I'm going to kind of skim over that. It's the best trade of all time. A plus 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 times infinity. What an amazing move. You've perfectly bridged that gap of where are we going to be post LeBron? Where are we going to be previously post AD? You have that with Luka, and what an amazing move for this team. I loved the interview with Pelinka, basically saying, hey, this season we might not win a title. We might not make it as far in the playoffs as maybe we hope. That's okay. Like, we have the building blocks going forward, and that was pre Mark Williams trade, which I'm going to talk about a little later with the Hornets. But man, what an amazing week for Lakers fans. I cannot believe this trade happened. Even seeing Luke in a press conference, even seeing him in his new threads, even after seeing him work out with Braun, I still can't believe it. They're the biggest winner of the trade deadline. So let me rip the Band-Aid off for the biggest loser. We all know it's the Dallas Mavericks. The dumbest trade in NBA history. Nico Harrison, I still can't quite put into words the level of stupidity that came with making this trade. You trade your 25-year-old superstar, and any of the talking heads like Kendrick Perkins, I guess, is the biggest one, who are trying to tout Dallas as a winner. They're not. They're not. Even if they make it further, I said this in the Luka video, the Mavs could make the finals this year, and I'd feel the exact same way about them as I do right now. It's a dumb move. It's a dumb move. It makes no sense to restrict your timeline. And yes, they are still a playoff team. Yes, they are still a good team. They have a good playoff rotation. But you're missing a Luka. Hilariously enough, you need that 1A premium guy to be a contender, and they're not that. So the biggest losers of the entire trade deadline, the biggest losers of the year, it's the Dallas Mavericks. Mavs fans, I feel terrible. And I honestly recommend that you find a new team. Here at Flagrant Talk, it's a safe space, man. Leave. Get out. We won't give you any crap for it. The next big winner. Man, this is another one I skimmed over immediately. I did a quick Deer and Fox video because it happened right after our Luka one. The biggest winner, or one of the biggest winners, is the San Antonio Spurs. And in a lot of years, they would be the biggest had Luka not been traded. When you look at, and I'm going to be going through I got a handful of screens pulled up. So if I'm looking around different places, that's why. You look at San Antonio and you get De'Aaron Fox with Wemby. This is something I've been asking for since De'Aaron openly said out he wanted to be traded. Him and Wemby are a killer combo. As part of the trade that lands Jordan McLaughlin as well. The Sacramento Kings got Zach LaVine, City Sissoko, a multitude of first and second round picks And then Chicago got Zach Collins, Trey Jones, Kevin Herter, and a 2025 first rounder that they got back to kind of control some of their draft capital again. What an amazing first game for De'Aaron. In that immediate game, I was locked in, and already we saw that pairing of him and Wemby, the speed that he can play with, where Chris Paul is more of a methodical, slow down point guard. De'Aaron Fox can be that go, 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 hype the speed up. And that makes the Spurs team going forward so dangerous with that tandem and being able to recruit future talent. It's an amazing move by the Spurs. And I really cannot believe that they were able to land him at the price of keeping a Keldon Johnson, a Trey Jones, a Stephon Castle, who I think has all-star upside, a Devin Vassell, all of Jeremy Sohan, all of those pieces staying in San Antonio keep their door wide open. They can obviously be traded later. They can hold on to them as building blocks and make a play-in spot, make a playoff spot. I love what the San Antonio team has done, and they are going to be so dangerous going forward. Next up, I've got a team that I have in the middle tier. So I'll kind of discuss why. I've got the Golden State Warriors. Now, obviously, their big move was landing a disgruntled Jimmy Butler. He clearly did not want to stay in Miami, and Golden State swoops in and gets him. And I have them in this middle tier because on one hand, I like it. Let me talk about the positives first. You are adding another all-star with Steph Curry. You're getting a guy where you can keep that title window open. You're getting a guy where you can still make, a push in the playoffs, hopefully. We know Jimmy is a playoff riser, even though he hasn't looked the best and hasn't been on the court a lot over the past really year and a half, going back to last year, missing all of the postseason with Miami. So on one hand, I like them being aggressive. Obviously, they wanted Durant, and Durant said, I'm good. No desire to reunite in Golden State. So you go with a disgruntled star that you hope can elevate your team. The thing I like about this, similarly to San Antonio, is you didn't have to trade a Jonathan Kuminga. You didn't have to trade a Moses Moody. You didn't have to trade an AirPods. You get to hang on to those pieces and didn't give up, a lot of draft capital either. Obviously, the 2025 first, top 10 protected. We'll see how that rolls over for Miami. But I like this move for Golden State in terms of the now staying competitive, him, Green, Curry, and some of the young talent that they have. On the flip side, the reason it's not a win, it's desperate. It's desperate. You couldn't land a Kevin Durant, and so you went with kind of the next best thing. And it is good. I give them credit for pulling the trigger on the deal, but it reeks of desperation a little bit. So on the one hand, on the court, I think they are a better team, even though they lose an Andrew Wiggins, who was pivotal to winning that title a couple years ago. Lose a slow-mo. You lose a Dennis Schroeder, who honestly, since coming to Golden State earlier this year, has not looked as good as he obviously did with the Brooklyn Nets. But you're moving these pieces that are good, but are not as significant. Obviously, Butler is an upgrade. So I give them, I think this is a bigger win than a loss, but it is a little desperate, if that makes sense, for Golden State instead of this home run move that I think a move like, getting a De'Aaron Fox or obviously Luka is. In the same tier, I have the Miami Heat, hilariously enough. This is just their end of the Jimmy Butler deal. I had them in kind of the separate area. They also acquired a Davion Mitchell as a smaller, defensively, oriented guard. They gave up PJ Tucker, a second round pick, and some money. So taking a swing on a younger guard who hopefully can help elevate that defensive intensity, maybe even in the playoffs for the Heat at that guard spot. But with me, this is a middle ground. You were able to get Jimmy Butler off off your books, who clearly didn't want to play there. He was a locker room cancer. You could not move forward with him on your team. I like being able to trade him. You add an Andrew Wiggins, you add a PJ Tucker, a Kyle Anderson. Like, you're adding these pieces and that first round pick, which I really like having that control. This is not a bad Heat roster. And I do like the Wiggins piece. He feels to me like a Heat player, and he's a bit of a connector. We're having a career year from a Tyler Hero who made the All-Star team. And so you're adding pieces that you hope can elevate that Heat, floor. Obviously, in terms of winning a title, I think they're out, but they keep the door open to signing a big name free agent that they can pair with Hero and can pair with Bam, and still acquire some good pieces in the short term. So I've got Miami as a middle tier team here in the trade deadline. Next up, I'm going to go with two losers. I'm going to group them in together because they're losers for a similar reason. And I'll go over them individually, but they're both the same reasoning. The Brooklyn Nets and the Portland Trailblazers. For Brooklyn, you leave wow, I put both of their names together. You leave Cam Thomas, you leave a Cam Johnson on the table. This is a team that should be tanking. They should be in the Cooper Flag sweepstakes. And when they traded a Dennis Schroeder, I thought that it was indicating that more was to come. It was not. They even hang on to a Nicholas Claxton. So for the Nets, it's this weird thing of, yes, those are good players and those are good pieces, but I'm not saying to trade them if there's not good offers, but man, I expected something to happen in this. And then obviously here I have the Portland Trailblazers as well. They're another team that recently has been hot. I believe they've won 9 of 10 or 8 of 10. They're on a hot streak seemingly out of nowhere, but I don't think that this isn't a playoff team. Maybe they make the play in, but that's it. That's your ceiling. And at that point, I've had Anthony Simons on this trade list perfectly with Orlando, is what I thought for the past 2 seasons, and that has not happened. And so for me, I'm sitting here just wondering, what are we doing? You're kind of taking yourself out of the Dylan Harper, Cooper Flag sweepstakes of that top 2, top 3 pick, but you're still not good enough to do anything meaningful in the playoffs. So I just don't get what Portland is doing, even though they are winning games in the short term. So I've got both these teams as losers with the Nets and Blazers for similar reasons. Next up, I'm going to tack on another loser, the Phoenix Suns. Now, the Suns did make a trade, but which acquired Cody Martin, Micic, and a 2026 second rounder. They got Yusuf Nurkic off their books, and they also gave up a first round pick in 2026. They're a loser because they opened the door to Kevin Durant being traded, and he didn't. Durant did not request to be traded, but the Phoenix Suns made it clear that they would have no problem doing so. And for me, man, the two safest players in the league after the Luka deal are Bradley Beal with his no trade clause and Bronny James. And I cannot believe that this Phoenix Suns team is what they are. They're not a serious contender. This is a team that is poised for a similar outcome to last year. Yes, they tried trading Beal. It didn't happen though. Yes, they asked around about Durant. Golden State. I'm sure they talked to Miami. The reports were that Dallas really wanted him. A deal isn't done. And for me, I think the end is near. It's inevitable for Phoenix. I would be shocked. We can come back to this if Durant starts next season as a Phoenix Sun. I don't think it happens. I think Durant is gone at the deadline at the absolute latest this time next year at the NBA trade deadline. So I think the writing's on the wall for this Phoenix team. They have not looked great, and I really can't see an outcome where they develop into anything special. So I think the writing's on the wall for Phoenix. They are a loser at the deadline for me. On this one, I'm going to add a middling team. I have the Toronto Raptors. The big trade for them is acquiring a disgruntled Brandon Ingram from the New Orleans Pelicans. They gave up Bruce Brown, Kelly Olynyk, go Zags, 2026 first round pick via the Indiana Pacers, and a second round pick as well. The Raptors got Brandon Ingram back. This is a weird one for the Raptors. I like it because Masai Ujiri has shown time and time again that he is willing to buy low, right? Think about it like a stock market. If a player is disgruntled, if their market isn't high, Ujiri has proven that he's willing to take a swing and buy low on a guy. This is a team that is wing heavy with the Toronto Raptors. You have now Brandon Ingram, who was done in New Orleans. He was clearly not coming back. The writing was on the wall there. But you have a Brandon Ingram. You have a Star J. Barrett, who's had a good season. You have a Scotty Barnes, who is that future, franchise piece with the Raptors. You added Emmanuel quickly last year. You hung on to a Jakob Poeltl. You still have a Grady Dick. So this is a good Raptors team. I like buying low on players. It's something where if I got a call as a GM about a Zion Williamson, I would probably take the swing because I think his market is relatively low. But at the same time, it is elevating the floor to where you're going to be out of that top 3 pick sweepstakes probably. We'll see about Ingram and his contract. I think that's going to sway this a little more on winners and losers. But they're a middling team after acquiring Ingram. I can't quite say one way or another, but I do enjoy buying low on players, especially in Ingram, who's 27 years old, has made an all-star team. Why not take the risk, especially if you feel like you're not going to be a team that bottoms out and gets that top 2, top 3 pick in the draft. Next up, let's go with the winner that I talked about earlier with Mark Williams in that trade with the Lakers. I have the Charlotte Hornets as a winner at the deadline. The big move being giving up Mark Williams, obviously, to the Lakers. They got Dalton Connect, Cam Reddish, a 2031 first round pick unprotected from the Lakers. That one was very coveted, and a 2030 pick swap with the team as well. They give up Mark Williams. The other trade that they made was for Yusuf Nurkic and a 2061 first round pick from the Phoenix Suns, and gave up Cody Martin, Micic, and a 2026 second round pick, which I had said earlier. I love this for the Hornets because Mark Williams has proven when he's on the court, he's 23 years old. He can be a great piece, right? A 15 and 10 guy putting up a block and a half a game for the Hornets. But he's struggled similarly to what the Pelicans have struggled with in Charlotte. They can't stay healthy. He's missed a lot of games. When he's been on the court, he's looked great, but he hasn't consistently been there for Charlotte. So Dalton Connect was a guy last year I really, really, really wanted Charlotte to draft. I thought he was a perfect fit to go to the team as an NBA-ready guy. I think he helps this wing spot potentially with a Brandon Miller who's going to miss this season, but you're getting a Dalton Connect and you're adding that 2031 unprotected first. For me, this is where the Lakers, I thought they were a little thirsty to make a deal. I like Mark Williams, but they didn't get as creative as I thought they were going to. And I really like the draft capital they get from Phoenix as well, saying, "Hey, we'll take Nurkic. We're not a playoff team. We're not doing anything. We'll take him and we'll acquire another first round pick." So you load up on first round draft capital while giving away a Mark Williams, which at this point I would have been willing to move for what the Lakers gave up, even though I like this move for Los Angeles if Williams can stay healthy. I really like this for the Hornets. I think they are one of I would argue the biggest winner of a team that didn't get a De'Aaron Fox or a Luca, like a big time all star, but working along the margin, saying picking up draft capital where you could and facilitating trades. I love this deadline for the Hornets and what they've done in the last 24 hours. Next up, another loser. I'll keep this one shorter, but it's the Memphis Grizzlies. Now, the Grizzlies did give up a Marcus Smart uh, as a part of a deal where he was sent to the Wizards. Pains me to say, because as a big time Celtics fan, Marcus Smart meant a lot to me, and it is sad to see him gone. But Grizzlies portion, the big trade was the Wizards, Grizzlies, and Kings did a deal. The Wizards get Marcus Smart, Colby Jones, Alex Len, and a 2025 first rounder via the Memphis Grizzlies. Memphis gets Marvin Bagley, Johnny Davis, who has been disastrous in Washington. 2028 second round pick via the Kings, and the Kings get Jake LaRavia. This to me for the Grizzlies, I have them as losers here, not necessarily because of the Marcus Smart thing. He hasn't looked great really since his DPOY season in Boston. He's been banged up in Memphis, and I think in that portion, I'm not mad at them giving up Smart, but I really do think they're a wing away. No Lion King. They're, they're a wing away from being a legitimate contender. They're a team that can make the conference finals. Don't get it twisted. This is a very good Memphis team. And they traded Marcus so that they'd have the space to sign a Jaren Jackson, which is way more important than having a Marcus Smart on your team. But to me, I would have loved a Cam Johnson, similarly to why I have this Brooklyn Nets team here. I think they both could have benefited from a deal with each other. And the Grizzlies now stand as a very, very good team, a team that can win a playoff series, maybe two. But I think that title hope is gone. And so we'll see next year. This is still a very good Grizzlies team, but I feel like there was more meat on the bone that they could have made a trade with. Next up, in the last loser I'm going to talk about, I have the Milwaukee Bucks. They got rid of Chris Middleton. That was the big trade for the Bucks. Let me pull the full details up. They added Kyle Kuzma from the Washington Wizards. This was a 4-team deal with the Wizards, Knicks, and Spurs. They also got Jericho Sims, 2025 second-round pick. They gave up AJ Johnson, Chris Middleton, $1 million from the Bucks. The Knicks got $2 million, and the Spurs got 4.3. To me, I struggle because Kyle Kuzma, his comments before leaving Washington rubbed me the wrong way. Of him basically saying, "Man, we can't do anything, so I got to stop being a team player. I got to focus on me." And I get he wanted to be moved, but he already said last year they had a trade lined up with Mr. Genius Nico Harrison. The Wizards did, and Kuzma said, "I'm good." That Mavs team obviously made the finals, and now he's going to the Bucks. This is a good team. If you have Giannis, who's a top 3 player in the league, you're going to be a playoff threat. You have Damian Lillard, who is an all-star guard. But I don't know if this Kuzma deal is that big of an improvement over Middleton, who, yes, has been hurt, is basically playing on one leg. But I don't love what this is for the Bucks. I still don't think they can beat a Boston out east. I don't know if they can beat a Cleveland Cavaliers out east. So to me, I think you left more on the table with a Bobby Portis, who I know Milwaukee loves. The fan base loves him, but I don't think this Kuzma thing is is that big of a move. I know they keep posting big three stuff, and it's funny, but I'm not buying it. I don't think Milwaukee walked away from this deadline as a serious winner. And so here they are in that losers category. The final loser I'm going to talk about, the last team I want to speak on, the Cleveland Cavaliers. I love what they did at this trade deadline. I love, love, love it. Making a trade with the Atlanta Hawks to acquire DeAndre Hunter, who's having a really, really solid season with the Atlanta Hawks. You're buying on him. You gave up a Karis LeVert. You gave up Niang, who, oddly enough, I believe is the most winning player in the 2020s. Just a funny tidbit. 2026 first round pick swap, 28 first swap, and 3 second round picks scattered for a DeAndre Hunter. I love this move for the Cavs because to me, this makes them a more dangerous team with the wing spot. This is a trade you make strictly to combat the Boston Celtics. You add a defensive oriented wing who can give you 15 to 20 a night. And I love, this move. He is a tremendous player. He obviously helps your offensive output. But Hunter, this is the one thing I said for the Cavs, similarly to what I said for the Grizzlies. If there's one thing I want to see them do at the deadline is improve that wing spot over Niang. DeAndre Hunter does that perfectly. I love this move for the Cavs. And I think, again, if they're coming off that loss to the Celtics, I love them getting aggressive and saying, hey, this is our window. Let's go for it. We think we can beat the Celtics. And I think they do stand a good threat. But DeAndre Hunter, they are no doubt to me, a better team with Hunter losing Niang and LeVert and bringing him in from Atlanta. A great move for the Cleveland Cavaliers. That is it. That is the video for me. Let me know your big winners and losers. I think the Kings are another team you could talk about in this middle tier. I don't necessarily love what the Bulls did. I think there's you could say the Nuggets needed to make a trade. You could say whatever you wanted. I would love to hear your winners, losers. Who are some teams you're conflicted about in the comments below? And of course, before we sign off, song of the pod. In this video, of course, we've got to end it. 1979, The Smashing Pumpkins. Amazing song. I grew up listening to The Smashing Pumpkins, and so that's what I got this week. Crazy trade deadline. Let me know your winners and losers, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace out, everybody.